SABC News presentation.
Watching Interface here on SABC 3. A warm welcome to you. My name is TEMBISA, MARELE. Thank you so much for making the time to join us. Now, the much anticipated COSATU Congress gets underway next week. Lots of issues facing the union and lots of things to talk about at that Congress. And tonight on Interface, we talk to the Secretary General of COSATU, Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi, to talk through some of the issues that the union will be thrashing out next week. And he's going to also touch on a few issues regarding some of the most relevant things that we are talking about in our country today. Remember that we do welcome your thoughts as well on our SMS line 33726 and also on our Facebook page. I see that those comments are already streaming in. Thank you so much for that. Do keep them coming. Our Facebook page is Interface on SABC3. Well, welcome, Mr. Vavi, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us here.
Now, you've said that this conference will be a period of introspection. You'll be looking at yourselves. What will COSATU be seeing when you look in the mirror and you really take a hard look at yourselves?
Well, basically, we've said this is a do or die for us. This is about determining whether the Federation will exist in the next 5 years or not. And this is a very, in fact, one of the most critical conferences or congresses COSATU have had in its 27 years of existence.
But what's happening now? Why is that even a question
because
at this stage?
the economic, political, organizational situation is much more complicated than any other time in our history. And we're facing tremendous challenges in the workplace, things that we've never thought that we'll have to confront in our short history of existence. Tremendous problems, complicated situation at the political level. So it's going to be looking at us in the mirror and in this 11th Congress of the Federation to say where we are and what are the main strengths we have and how do we solidify them. We're coming into this Congress to say that we do have strengths. And the organization of 2.2 million can't just be like any, as I was saying somewhere, a small corner fish and chips a shop somewhere in some town. No, we the biggest membership-based organization in the country. We're growing. We have grown by 25% between 2003 and now, which is in a period of 9 years. We have gained over 422,000 new members.
So you're a force to be reckoned with.
We are a massive thing, and that's where the complication comes from, because everybody in society will want to be a friend, including every opportunist under the sun. But at the same time, you attract every enemy that is very worried about the strength and the unity of workers in terms of what it means to their parties, to their individuals, careers, and everything.
Your participation in the tripartite alliance, will that come under fire? Will you be threshing that out and seeing if you still want to be part of that alliance?
In every Congress, we have a discussion about that. And even in this Congress,
yes, but
we
this
will
is
have
a do or die one.
It is going to be coming up for discussion. Is it still advancing the interest of the working class? Is it still in the best interest of the Federation? So it's going to be discussed.
But what are your thoughts on that? Is it still relevant to be part of that?
It is relevant. It is relevant. You know, this is what the guide to me will always be. When you belong to an organization, you must have a situation where the overwhelming policies of that organization is things that you agree with. The day that turns around and the overwhelming things are things that you don't agree with, step out, move out. You're no longer in the same house, and you're no longer sharing any values and ethics. And I think that the overwhelming majority of COSATU members will come to the conclusion that despite the problems that we will speak about in the alliance,
there's still
but
value
it's still
for
a
you
very, very relevant and a very powerful instrument that we should use to effect transformation of our society.
Your organizational report that you'll be tabling at the conference, already it shows that there are a number of weaknesses within COSATU. Let's look at, you know, the affiliated unions. You've described in that report some of the problems with NUM and with CWU and all of the other ones that are part of the affiliation. You've also looked at the provincial structures and the weaknesses in those structures. What solutions are you hoping will come out of there? What are you hoping will be the approach to solving some of the challenges that you have?
One of those weaknesses we're pointing out in the report is that, and this is what has been recognized by our Central Executive Committee, that we tend to be focusing too much on the political environment in our society and spending less and lesser time on discussing collective bargaining and strengthening of organization in every workplaces, or leading workers in battles that are necessary to ensure that we influence the changes that are forever happening in each and every workplace. So one of the biggest things we're going to hopefully look at in the Congress is the issues that you are talking about, the organizational challenges that the movement is facing and confronting them. In the report that you are referring to, in each and every section, we end by posing questions and making suggestions about what we can do to overcome every issue. For example, we're going to this Congress and to sing the old song that despite our gallant battles to try and improve the wages of our members, but the reality of our situation is that 50% of the workers in the population are still earning below some 2,800 rands. 40% of the South African workers are earning or are living on 10 rands a day. The wages are low, reflected on the fact that the share of the wages in the national income continues to go down, and reflected also by the growing income inequalities that are now bigger than anywhere else in the world.
And in fact, you're getting a lot of criticism around that. You know, a lot of people are saying, even on our Facebook page, and we'll read some of those messages a little later, they're saying that, you know, you are not in touch with the people at grassroots levels. You're not representing workers in particular to the best of your ability. You now, and when I say you, I mean union bosses, as you are called, you're now going for your own pockets. You're filling your own pockets, you're driving nice cars, you're living in mansions, and that's what's important to you now.
We have recognized that as a weakness, and there is that perception, of course, growing, and in society, and lots of that discussion have been happening in the recent period as a result of the Marikana mine massacre and or workers erupting, or wildcat strikes erupting all over the country. We have identified the issue of a social distance between the leadership of the unions and the base, including the perceptions that we are about cultivating a nice landing space for the leadership instead of focusing on the interest of the members. And we're speaking about that, but at the same time, we've done a survey that shows that the overwhelming majority of COSATU members feel that they are in charge of the processes in the unions. They elect the unions shop stewards directly, they hold them to account. At great percentage, they've participated in meetings for feedback during the times of negotiation. So the allegations that we just about ourselves can't be backed fully by any fact. Yes, there are weaknesses. There are weaknesses. Yes, there are weaknesses, but there are also overwhelming strengths.
And I think for me, I'd like us to get to the point where we talk about how you address the weaknesses that you yourselves have identified. You've seen that there is a gap between what's happening at grassroots and what's happening in the boardrooms of the unions. Now, how do you address that? What is the solution? We have to take a short break. When we come back, we will touch on that. And remember to keep your SMSs coming, 33726, and your Facebook messages. Interface on SABC 3. Don't go away. And we're chatting to Cosatu Secretary General, Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi, ahead of their upcoming conference. And just taking a quick look at some of your Facebook messages, Pastor Abel Dube says, Mr. Vavi has been busy attacking the government policies, not realizing that a new breed of unions is springing up and taking his bread away. Unions only work for themselves. Tabang Manganyi says, I think this organization or these organizations are just playing with our minds. I am working for the fast-moving consumer goods and we're getting peanuts, but they always say they're going to stop these labor brokers and nothing gets done about that. Simon B. Sindana says, a very consistent leader is who Mr. Vavi is, and he will always shout when wrong is done, no matter where it is done. So there's a compliment for you there.
The first one is not, eh? The first one goes
two
to
are
the
not.
opposite.
Yes. Oscar Letts says, unions are just another method of the gravy train. Look at the Marikana situation. NUM signs a peace agreement without discussing it with the miners, and yet they claim to be representing the miners. And Nomakasazana Mtembu says, unions don't work for me. I still need to stay away from work, go and toy, get shot, and at the end of it, I am paying the unions and I get nothing out of it. So those are some of the issues that are coming up on our Facebook line. And I think it goes back to the issue we were discussing just before the break, that, you know, you are seen as this gravy train, or you being on the gravy train and really not delivering so much for the workers.
Every statistic you will come across in South Africa comparing the situation of organized workers or workers who are members of the unions and those that are not will tell you something very consistent, and that will be that the members of the unions have better wages, have better conditions of employment, have better job security. Across all the sectors of the economy. That's what everything will tell you.
There's some
and if
benefits
COSATU was this useless as some of your SMSs are painting it to be, then you will then wonder how could 2.2 million people be fooled into joining a gravy train organization that is no longer relevant.
One of those comments was saying, this is why you're seeing a lot of other unions mushrooming, because you're not doing your job.
There will always be many unions. There's 117 fly-by-night corner fish and chips unions all over South Africa, who are the organizations that offers no solution to any real
But would they be as attractive to the workers if you were
they
consistently delivering?
They will become attractive to the workers if COSATU focuses on other matters that are not important to workers.
Which is what's
and
happening now.
That's why COSATU's Congress is going to be saying to everybody, hold on, some things are going right, but some things are going wrong, and we've got to fix the problems where those perceptions are there. It means that there's a problem somewhere. I'm not going to sit here and say in denial. The worst thing that we can do is to go to this Congress and say we have no problems, we're just angels. No, we're not angels. There is not one single organization in the whole world that doesn't have its own challenges. COSATU have weaknesses, and we're going to be confronting those weaknesses next week.
Let's look at your relationship with the ruling party. You were instrumental in propelling President Zuma into power. Will you be supporting him going into the Mangaung conference in December?
The Congress is going to discuss that, of course. But the point we're coming, or where we are coming from now, is that we have identified 6 areas of focus for COSATU so that we can be united. The first thing, we're saying that we support the principles, the policies that emerge from Polokwane. Secondly, we support the leadership collective that emerged from Polokwane, and we must defend it from all of those who are seeking to undermine that collective. Thirdly, we have said that at the right time, members must assess their leadership and decide what is the best thing for them as membership. And fourthly, we have said that we must work with this government. We must be constructive, but at the same time, we must be critical where there is a need.
But what is your view? Do you think COSATU should back President Zuma?
I can't say that.
Conference?
I can't preempt that discussion. That discussion is a very involved discussion that members must engage with without being dictated to by the General Secretary.
But before, you know, in the previous election, you were very vocal.
Okay,
you were out there. You were saying
look,
yes.
We did that from a structure. I only advance positions agreed to by the structure, not my own personal views on any matter. At that time, COSATU have taken a decision in a manner that it has not done so in the previous period, unprecedented, to say we're going to directly influence the election results of the ANC by announcing our preferred candidates. And we did that informed by the political environment that was pertaining at that time. There were clear political reasons why we were forced, in our view, to intervene, as we call it, and rescue the ANC that was going nowhere under the previous leadership. And then after the Congress, we made a commitment at the insistence of the ANC leadership that said, never ever again should you ever consider naming your preferred leaders of the ANC in COSATU structures. Leave that to the ANC branches.
But
COSATU CC, COSATU Congress in 2009 said, that's fine, we will only do that again if the political situation rolls back to what the situation was
at the time when
before
you made
2007.
That. But considering some of the very public spats and fallouts between the ruling party and COSATU, and how critical you've been in your personal capacity, do you regret the decision to back President Zuma?
No, not at all. No, we do not regret that decision. It was the right thing to do, facing the political circumstances we were facing at the time in 2007.
Okay. Now, looking at some of the divisions that we've seen at a leadership level, where you will come out and you will say, you will be critical of the president, and then the president of COSATU will come out straight after you and say, no, actually, we're still on very good terms. We don't support what he's just said. Is that something that's going to come up at this conference? Are you going to address that at any stage?
There have been one or two occasions when that happened, but it has not been the overwhelming feature of the tenure that we have served in the past 3 years. And in our view, we're going to this Congress, of course, with some difficulties. As you will read any newspaper, you will see that people are speaking as sources. We're going to target this one, we're defending this one. It's not the best of spaces we are finding ourselves. But I can say without any fear that in the overwhelming case, COSATU is going to demonstrate unity of purpose in this Congress, and that it is going to emerge out of this Congress better united and with a radical program of action to influence what we believe is the biggest terrain of struggle today, and that is to influence what should be the second phase of a transition towards a real economic emancipation of our people.
Now, we've got to take a short break, but I do want to ask you this before we go. A lot of people see you as what we call in Xhosa, ingomedla yodwa. You know, you're this
isolated.
You're this isolated person that's driving his own agenda. You want to be the superstar in COSATU. You want to be the anti-corruption guru or whatever you want to call yourself. And that is dissociating you from the rest of the leadership and also from the rest of COSATU. What do you say to that?
Look, you can always make that argument against the General Secretary. The General Secretary in the Federation is the chief spokesperson of the Federation. Every decision, no matter how good you feel the decision is or how bad someone else may feel about the decision, I still have to be the chief communicator of that decision.
Okay.
So somebody can suddenly turn around and say he's individualistic, he's wanting to be above the collective. He's populist or whatever the allegations will be. All I know is that in each and every instance I speak in public, I always seek to represent the views of the collective as coming from the structures of the Federation.
All right. Do you agree with that? Do you think that Mr. Vavi is, in fact, representing the views of COSATU, or has he become too big for his own sake? But do drop us a line and let's hear what your thoughts are on our SMS line 33726, also on our Facebook page. That's Interface on SABC3. We're back after this. It's your #1 current affairs show, Interface, here on SABC3, chatting tonight to Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi, who is the Secretary General of COSATU, ahead of the elective Congress that is taking place next week. Now, a lot of people want you out at this Congress, from what we hear and what we read. A lot of people are saying you've outstayed your welcome in COSATU, and apparently, or reportedly, NUM is leading the charge to get you out. Is that true?
We'll see a lot of people in the Congress. Let's see. So I can't comment on that, honestly. A lot of people will be at the Congress. Let's see.
Okay. So a lot of, one of the things that's coming up is you've been in this position since 1999. You said you wouldn't stand for this position at this conference, and then you changed your mind. Are you addicted to the power that comes with the position?
By the way, thank you for asking that question. Let me clarify it once more.
Yeah.
I took a decision informed by the political environment that existed in the previous Congress, 2009, and I won't have time to just talk about that. But it was pro-effect relations in the alliance and so forth and so forth. I took a decision that there's nothing more to prove. I've delivered, as part of that collective, a perfect organization. Making it that we elected the literal agents of a strong tenor that was putting the leadership in the back foot. There was a growing incidence of corruption. There was lack of leadership on a range of issues affecting society. The leadership of the Federation at the CEC then went for me. Why did you make that unilateral announcement? We want you to change that decision so that you allow us a right to elect you if we feel you're still equal to the task in the next Congress. So it was not me suddenly changing my mind and saying that, no, the power is nice, I want to continue. It was the collective at the level of the CC hammering me, not once, but twice, to the point that I said, fine, I will agree to serve. Now, those people are going to the newspapers and saying he has overstayed are probably the same people who last year... exactly, yeah. Because of whatever the political circumstances are now.
But the perception is there that, you know, you've been in this position for so long. Why have you stayed so long? Is it addictive? Is it giving you a power base?
You're not listening to what I've just said.
I've heard you.
You're not listening because you're now making it as if it is a personal decision. It is not my personal decision. If members of COSATU feel that I have no more contribution to make, they will make that determination in the coming week.
But Mr. Vavi, I hear you. I've heard what you've had to say. Now I'm saying, if you say to us tonight that you have assessed the situation and you've seen that you have contributed as much as you could contribute, and then the leadership says, oh no, you can't make that unilateral decision, surely you have a right to say, there must be new blood that can serve better. I have done my bit and I would like to retire.
It depends on the political environment. It's not a matter that you take unilaterally on your own. You listen to what your membership and your leadership have to say to you about your future. I came to this movement not as an individual, Zwelinzima Vavi. Nobody knew who the hell was that. I came because I was a member, an activist, and I was identified as a person who can do this job. If those people feel that that's no longer the case, they have a right to say, no, sorry, you have played your role, thank you very much. We need someone else.
So you're not worried about what's going to happen at this Congress if people want to oust you and there's a revolt against you and all of these dramatic things?
There will always be revolt. There will always be revolt. But let me say this, though. There has to be a reason why people will say to me last year, stay, and suddenly, no, they say in the newspapers now as sources, you have to go. I have to question the reason why all of a sudden friends of yesterday becomes your enemies tomorrow and not talking to you, but go to the newspapers as sources.
What do you think is happening?
There are lots of things which I can't, which I'm not at liberty to talk about in a television interview, but also I will speak about those things in the Congress.
But you say there's definitely something happening here.
Absolutely. There is something happening. You can't just change your mind overnight. Somebody you were singing about last year as your hero, all of a sudden is your worst enemy. You have to explain why is that the case now.
Okay. Let's chat a little bit about the ousted or the fired or however you dismissed ANC youth leader, Julius Malema. Let's touch a little bit about that, because you quoted as saying that he is a wealthy, essentially right-wing leader who exploits any perceived weakness to encourage workers to leave their unions, their only means of defense, referring particularly to his involvement in the Marikana issue. Now, his argument is, because there has been a lack of leadership from the union side, he's had to step in and say, look, give direction to the workers. What is the issue that you take with him?
The issue that we take on him or with him is the fact that he is saying to workers they must move from the NUM and go and fragment themselves, divide themselves, and weaken their voice in the face of management. Now,
has the NUM not failed the workers?
No. I'm saying to you, TEMBISA, there will be no organization, no matter how powerful. NUM have 330,000 members. It's the most powerful union in the country. But it will have weaknesses in that mine, in that workplace, in that area. It's natural. It forms part of any organization that you're not going to be perfect everywhere else. Now, the role of revolutionaries is when you see weaknesses in an organization that you claim to be allied to, that is your friend, you can't then say to workers, because there are weaknesses in this particular area, go out and establish alternative unions.
Okay.
And that's wrong. That's what makes us to say, but this is right-wing. It's not different from any right-wing program.
Mr. Vavi, we have run out of time, but I've got to ask you this. If you're not elected in this conference, in your position, what are you going to do? Go farming?
No, I'm still far too young.
What's in the car? What's on the cards?
If I don't get elected, I'm definitely going to the civil society.
You're not going to be a tenderpreneur?
No. I'm going to the civil society because I think that one of the perfect ways of keeping the democracy vibrant is to be in the civil society with the people, challenge wrongs, and compliment government where it is doing the right things. That's what I'll do forever. And that's my life.
We'll be watching, and we'll be watching to see what happens at this Congress next week. Remember that if you've got any thoughts, you can also email us on our email address, which is interfaceon3@sabc.co.za. That's where we leave it for tonight. Thank you so much for having joined us. From me, TEMBISA and the team, good night.